My number one, I guess method is list making. I am such
Okay.
a list
Yeah.
maker. Like I have a file open all the time, to-do list.
Welcome to the Action Taker podcast, where we keep you and your business in action so that you can focus on serving more people and doing what you do best. Hello, I'm Lauren Cosgrave. I'm a business coach, a Navy veteran. Around here, we like to say that normal is boring, success is inevitable, and taking action is always the next right step. Hi, Action Takers. It's Lauren Cosgrave, and I am so excited today to introduce you all to my friend, Alison Mountford. She is head chef of Ends and Stems, an amazing cooking subscription service, and I'm just so excited to have her on the show today and for you guys to get to know her a little bit better. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a working parent and what it's like to be a chef and just all of those things around what it takes to be an action taker and to maximize our lives. So, hey, Alison, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. We're so glad to have you here. Can we just get started? Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, as you said, I'm a chef. I've been cooking professionally for almost 16 years at this point. And it's changed a lot over the years, but my mission has always been to help busy people eat whole foods. I was inspired by the farmers markets of San Francisco and, the rainbow of colors and how we can actually get more of these foods into our diet. But at the same time, I'm also a product of our times and super busy. And I just want people to find a way to get back to like the older generations of, putting a meal together and enjoying the work that it takes and the benefit of it. But how can we do that in a modern way so that people can actually sit down and eat, whether you're one person or a family of 7? How can we sit down at the table and eat whole foods simply a little bit more often? So that has changed for me a lot, over the last 16 years, but that's sort of always been my mission. And yeah, I live in San Francisco. I'm originally from New England, and I have 2 little kids, and my husband is a teacher.
Alison, do you know that you're like the embodiment of an old dream of mine? I had a food blog for a couple years. I thought I wanted to write cookbooks, but I love your modern take on this. Like you are like attacking entrepreneurship from a standpoint that I think is like so fresh and like it's meeting the needs of what people need right now. So I think that's awesome what you're doing. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about your origin story? Like how did you get into cooking in the first place?
Sure. I've always been a hands-on creative person. So when I was little, and actually still to this day, my most favorite thing ever is some sort of kit or project. Like ask my family, even my 4-year-old, she'll be like, oh, mom wants a project. I love any kind of project. So whether that's like spackling, cement patches on my sidewalk, which I'm going to do later today. When I was in college, I reupholstered a couch just for fun. But only once. Like I didn't become a reupholsterer. I just wanted to do it once. And when I was a little kid, I used to love those like boxes that would come with all the supplies that you needed to pull off a necklace or, to make a paper mache donkey or whatever it was. So I still love that process. I just got a knitting kit, and I'm not starting with a scarf because that's boring. Like I'm starting with a sweater.
Alison, do you know that I'm an avid knitter?
Are you?
We need to talk about this off the podcast. I knit every day.
Need help. I need help with the first step, but like I'm starting with a sweater, so I'm sure it's going to be wonky and terrible, but that's always been my style.
Gosh.
So when cooking was the thing, it just resonated with me. So I used to paint a lot and, just always things with my hands. And then when I discovered food has the added benefit of being able to eat it afterwards, it just sort of all lined up and made sense. My mom, when I was growing up, used to make really extreme shape cakes. So she'd make like a paintball course cake or, a sculpture cake and all these kinds of things. So we were always working in the kitchen together. When I was really little, I'd be helping her roll out gum paste flowers, and we'd be making replicas of animals and all these things for her cakes. So it was always really natural to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was on a college track. I didn't want to work in a restaurant. But when, my cooking grew throughout the years. It was something that I always really loved. And when I actually had to get a job after college, I was in sales. I didn't really love it. And I encountered an article that said the top 5 fastest growing small businesses of 2005. And third on the list was personal chef service. And I had never heard of that before. I didn't know what a personal chef was, but I clicked on it and read it. And it was like, you own your own business. You get to cook whatever you want for your clients. You can start tomorrow. And I was like, done. So I quit my job on a Wednesday. By Friday, or I read it on Wednesday, quit my job on Friday. I took 2 weeks off, and then I was in culinary school 2 weeks later. And within a couple of weeks, I had started my first personal chefing business.
Oh my gosh, Alison, that is the definition of action taker. I love
Yes,
it. That is
definitely.
You just dove in there. Awesome. That's a great origin story. So maybe let's bring it back to the present. What is it that you love about being a working parent right now? We haven't really introduced the fact that you have kids. So maybe tell us a little bit about your family and what you love about being a working parent.
I do. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 4.5 and my son is going to be 2 next week. So, full busy house. We don't have a lot of family around. So it's a lot of work kind of getting them where they need to go and taking care of everybody. They're still at that very, very hands-on stage. So I've always had, throughout this whole process, I've always had my own business. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old. So when I hear working parent, I definitely think like entrepreneur parent for sure. And, I love when they see me work hard. My daughter already will talk about my clients, and they know that it takes a lot to keep everything going. And, that there's times they see me sit down at night and I have to type up a recipe or, practice a recipe for somebody. And if it's just recipe testing, I let my daughter come in the kitchen and help. And so I like that they get that it's not just all easy or given to them. I feel like it's instilling a work ethic in them that's important to me and important to our family. I feel like my best self as both a person, a member of society, and a parent when I do both. So I really like finding a balance, which, on any given day is a challenge, and whatever the definition of balance is always changing. But whatever it looks like, even when it's way out of balance, like true balance, I like doing both. I like being, an individual with passions about the future of our planet and the future of our communities, but then also, dedicated mom to my kids. That just feels good to me. So that's probably my, my favorite thing about doing both.
Yeah. What you're talking about is you're embodying that role model. Like for me, I'm similar situation to you. I've got 2 kids about the same age, and I want to be an example of what's possible to them. I want them to see me working. I want that to be a part of their lives. I don't want them to think that mommy just goes to this dungeon all day and comes back tired and worn out. I want them to see me excited about my work. And that's why I'm an entrepreneur, because it's what lights me up, what makes me happy. And then I'm able to be a better mom for them.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel exactly the same. And, my daughter will come with, sometimes I've gone to farmers markets to talk to people about reducing their food waste, which is the specific goal of my business. And so she knows already. She'll say, oh, are we going to talk about ends and stems again? And, so she does get to see when, I take that message to the world, and that, like you said, it lights me up, and she gets to experience that. But then she also sees nights when I'm exhausted and not quite finished and ready to shut down for the night. And she sees that I have to eat dinner and then, you know, do a little bit more work. So I think she sort of, you know, picks up on the balance, and that something can be both hard and worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe can you share with us what are some of your habits that help you maintain quote unquote balance, and whatever balance is for you?
Yep.
I think balance is a very personal thing. I think, you know, this discussion around work-life balance tends to be a little too homogenized, you know, like
Yeah.
what works for one person doesn't work for another. So in my world, I'm always preaching about high performance habits, the teachings of Brendon Burchard. I'm a certified high performance coach, and there's a lot of very specific things that go along with that. But I've adapted a lot of those for my own personal style and things that embody balance in my own life. So what are some of the things that you do, maybe on your daily habits or in your
Yep.
weekly or monthly habits, that help you maintain balance? And what does that mean for you?
My number one, I guess method is list making. I am such
Okay.
a list
Yeah.
maker. Like, I have a file open all the time, to-do list, and
Uh-huh.
it's divided usually between monthly, roughly monthly. You know, sometimes it's not literally a month, and then weekly. And you know, I usually prioritize it by day, but I think I have a good inherent understanding of that. When I feel out of control, like there's too much going on, my
Mm-hmm.
top method is make a list. If I
Okay.
can get a handle and see in black and white everything that needs to be done, like today before I can go to bed, the end of this week before I can call it a
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and then sort of longer term, I start to feel a lot better about things. I
Yeah.
do typically divide, sometimes it's on one list, but I divide like family life and for work. So I
Mm-hmm.
see them together, but they're a little bit separate. And
Mm-hmm.
just getting that down, like knowing, okay, we need to figure out gymnastics class. We need to figure out who's driving here. We need to figure out, you know, this permission slip. Just having that all written down, it makes me, even if I don't check anything off yet, seeing it and knowing that I know it needs to be done, just it immediately gives me a sense of control,
Mm-hmm.
which I
And
like.
did you say that you're a digital list taker, or do you pen and paper?
I go back and forth. I'm
Yeah.
also a doodler, so I do
Okay.
like to have notes, and I think well as I kind of scribble. So sometimes I have a to-do list on paper, but recently I've moved it to my computer, and I have more, it's like my longer term list is on the computer. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like, what do I want to accomplish in January, and what things do I need to get done this month? And I've just found really recently, actually, that that's kind of a better place for my longer term lists and goals. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if they have supporting documents, like if it's a financial goal or financial needs, like how much do I need to make this quarter to be able to afford my recipe editor?
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things are better for me on the computer because, you know, they can have the supporting documents like all right there, and I'm not shuffling around a bunch of pieces of paper. But if it's anything creative or you know, quick to turn over, I do like to do it with a pen, and it's very scribbly and doodly, but that
Yeah.
actually really works well for me.
Yeah.
um, so that's one. Another big one is you know, division of labor with my husband. My husband is
Mm-hmm.
very evolved and helpful, and we're a really good team. And we divide things not like half and half, but really by task.
Mm.
So in a
Yeah.
very cliche way, I'm the cook, so I am the
Mm-hmm.
grocery shopper, and I make sure that the refrigerator is full. And that means having the things that he likes in the house too. But
Mm-hmm.
he does all of the laundry. And that even means deciding when it's time to do laundry, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
whole process. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, I read a lot of these articles about, you know, women managing the household, but really still holding a piece of it in their mind.
Yes.
I don't think about laundry. I don't know when he does it. I don't know when
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be done. I couldn't care less about
Yes.
the laundry being done. He just does it and it's done. I don't have any brain space for laundry.
Allison, I love that
Um,
you mentioned that. I think that that is such a key component of a successful relationship, is that um, that mental tax, so to speak, that is typically associated with uh, how do I say this without like sounding like too stereotypical?
I guess
But
like
you know, the like
division of labor,
division of labor. Yeah, I
or
mean, and it even
teamwork,
happens
partnership.
in any partnership. You're right, and this happens in corporate also. But if you don't have trust in that other person fully completing that task, you're
Yeah.
always going to have that decision tax in your brain where you're like, or you're thinking about it. It's like sitting there,
Yep.
and it burns calories. Like, people, I don't think, give enough credit to the fact that like thinking burns calories. And then when you become a parent, the number of decisions you have to make on a daily basis
So many.
skyrockets, and our brains get completely overloaded, and we fail to like find ways to alleviate that load that we've now increased on our brain, because you're constantly having a kid being like, mommy, I want Cheerios. Mommy, can you help me go to the bathroom? Mommy, I need to get, it's like, where are the shoes? Where's the
Seriously.
lunch boxes? So that's so great that you and your husband have been able to find a way of like, okay, my brain space, I don't have any more space for laundry. You do laundry and you don't have to worry
Do
about
it.
food. I'll worry about food. You do laundry.
Exactly.
That's such a great habit. I'm going to write that down. I need to
And
like
I
think
think
about that, how to
also,
incorporate that in some of my training.
like when I read in, like parenting forums or just listen to friends speak about it, I think as women, we're either conditioned or it's more
Mhm.
socially acceptable or whatever it is to have this like level of perfectionism,
Mhm.
or, I hear women a lot be like, I don't trust my husband to do it, or he
Yeah.
doesn't fold things the right way. I'm stubborn and I just don't care. So I think there's a
Mhm.
certain advantage to just like letting go of, a piece of it. The
Yeah.
clothes are getting clean. I don't care what kind of soap he uses. I don't care how things get folded or organized. Just stop micromanaging it. The other one that
Mhm.
I've been hearing a lot recently, that I'm like taking on as my personal mission to get women
Mhm.
to stop doing this, is the whole only women know where things are. Like husbands will say, oh, I can't find the cheddar cheese, where is it? And women feel like they need to get up and go look for it or be the keeper of that. I know where it is, and I'm just going to keep on sitting here and say, I don't know, did you look for it? Like, and then just stop there. And I think, we try to train our kids to do this, oh,
Mhm.
did you look harder? Did you look under the
Mhm.
bed? Where was the last place you have it? We train
Yes.
them, but I see it's pervasive. And I don't know why this one keeps coming up so much, but
Mhm.
this willingness to enable our husbands to, um, I don't know, just be lazy about it or whatever it
Mhm.
is. But I'll sit there all day and be like, I don't know. I'm not getting up for it. And I think after a while, everybody learns they have to pull their own weight. And then,
Yeah.
of course, if it's something I put away, or, if somehow I'm involved in an object, I'm not going to be a jerk. Like, I'll get up and, help you look. But don't come to me to manage, the organization of your space or the household space. We're all
Sure.
responsible for this space, and I expect everybody to participate in it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
recommend stubbornness. And
Well, what I hear you saying is you're controlling what you can control, and you're choosing to let go of the parts
yeah,
that you are either choosing not to control or not really a part of your responsibility. You're giving yourself permission to be responsible for the things that you can control and what are
right.
under your umbrella of responsibility. And then you're loving your family to be responsible for their parts of their
Yeah. And I have expectations for them. And
responsibility. Yeah.
I think their expectations are clearly communicated. And, everybody, one of my favorite parenting things I saw was just to have, it's not that it's chores, but if you live in this house, you have an age appropriate expectation to participate in the house. We all
Yeah.
live here and share this space. So
Yeah.
it is not my job to manage how everybody organizes and lives in this space. We all need to participate in that. And that goes for, my 2-year-old, and it certainly goes for my partner. So, and
That's
I think
awesome.
similar feelings, work for my business as well. I think I like to mentor up and coming personal chefs, and I'm in a Facebook group that's really wonderful it's called San Francisco Lady Chefs, and it's all female owned chef businesses. So we do a variety of things, everything from granola companies to cheese platter companies to personal chefs and caterers. And, I've been doing this for a long time. So there are a lot of people that are just getting started, and they have a lot of questions about the order of things and when do I get insurance, or when do I print my business card? And I like to help, people get started and in this specific business of ours or specific industry of ours. And I think a lot of it is, especially, at any given stage in your business, like letting a lot of things go. You can have a business without a logo, let that go for a bit, like get some business, find out who your customers are. And, you don't have to have control of all the parts, but find the parts that really matter and then have control of them in a meaningful way that lets you get to the next level. And you can always be adding on and improving, but it's much better to get started and get the ball rolling than, wait around for all of the components to be in place. You'll be waiting forever.
I love it. I love it, Allison. You are practicing what I preach in my business coaching for sure. You don't need a website to start a business. It's usually something that can come later. If you want one and you can do it quick and easy, great. But if it is stopping you from being in action and starting to generate revenue and get clients, then deprioritize it, because it's not.
And a lot of times you'll build the wrong thing when you get started. You don't have any clients yet. What are their frequently asked questions? You don't know. You don't have any clients. Go find out what their questions are and then make a better website a little bit later.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Well, Allison, I want to touch on something. There was a lot of passion behind talking about being a parent there. And we talked a little bit before we started recording here, how you used to have a parenting podcast. And so I wanted to ask you, what value do you see in podcasting? How do you use it in your business? What are some of your maybe power tips or thoughts on podcasts?
Yeah. Well, I started with podcasts because I love listening to them. So I listen while I cook, I listen while I drive. And, as much as I love music, it doesn't always engage me when I'm trying to do something. I love the storytelling and hearing other people's perspectives. And so I started as a fan, I think a pretty early fan of podcasts. So a friend, one of my closest friends who I met in San Francisco, we both had moved here. We've been friends for over a decade. She moved back to LA. So she's about, however far away that is. And in that time, we both had our first kids, but we were separate from each other. So we started like a long distance, old time friends, talking about our parenting experiences together. So it was really just one of those kind of conversational, but we'd have a topic and sometimes we'd interview people. And it was so much fun. We did it for a year. I think we did 40 some episodes or something like that. And it was at the time that I was transitioning from my catering business and my food production, like really selling plates of food to people business, to Ends and Stems, which is a online recipe meal planning business. Which is a really different type of business. But I wasn't sure at the time we did the podcast if Ends and Stems was going to be a hobby or if it was actually my business. I was just kind of getting started. So I had a lot of free time trying to figure that out. And ultimately we stopped doing the podcast because the effort that it took to get people to listen to a podcast was the same effort that it took to get people to follow Ends and Stems. And during that time, I did figure out Ends and Stems was a legitimate business and I was going to go forward with that. But after having my own podcast for a little while, I still love the medium. I love being interviewed and talking to other podcast hosts. And I think, it's a chance to have a sort of viral social media quality or like style, but to go more in depth. You know, people are listening to podcasts. A lot of times they're not flipping through. They tend to listen to like longer clips of an episode.
Oh, I
And if you
love
can
that.
hook
It's
them,
not the infinite scroll.
yeah, if you can
Yeah.
hook them, they're really engaging in listening to a conversation.
Yeah.
People I didn't know very well used to tell me all the time how they felt like they were my friend by listening to me talk on this podcast, which was,
Yeah.
you know, I think the best ones, I feel that way about the hosts as well, that I know these people. And so it's an interesting cross between this, you know, online platform, but really a way to go deeper. So that's why I like listening to them, and I like telling my story, and I like talking about reducing food waste and, you know, other aspects of my business and entrepreneurship on other people's podcasts, because I think it's a great opportunity to get to do that. And if you have one that lines up with your business, it, you know, it absolutely then makes sense to, you know, to produce that.
You have just like sparked this like light in my brain here about this with podcasting, of why it's so powerful. And it's that detachment from that infinite scroll, that you don't have to like have that copy or that image that's going to get someone to stop as they're like mindlessly thumbing through their feed. Like, you are consciously making a decision. I'm going to listen to this person's content right now in your podcast. You're opening it up intentionally and saying like, oh, Lauren's got a podcast. I like her stuff and I want to listen to it. And I'm going to dedicate some time to it. They're usually like longer form, right? So it's super powerful tool for your business. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I think stories, you know, I keep hearing about this too. And, you know, it's all about stories, whether you're pitching your business to an investor or you're trying to, you know, convert new customers. It's all about, you know, I feel like a couple years ago it was all about your brand. What's your branding? What's your branding? And now I keep hearing it's about your story. Telling the story, getting people involved, get them in the narrative, you know, who are you, what are you doing, and what's your reason for doing what you're doing. And podcasts are just a really great way to go deeper into, you know, what that story is. And people want to be a part of something. I think they feel then that they're, you know, they're not just forking their money over, that they're part of the story that you're telling and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Alison, let's shift to talking about Ends and Stems now. Like, where are you at right now with the business? What is it all about? And what are some of your visions for the future for it?
Absolutely. My favorite. Especially early in the new year, new decade. Like,
yes, it's a new decade.
I have a lot of visions. So Ends and Stems is a meal planning platform designed to help people get dinner on the table effortlessly and reduce their household food waste. So that sort of dual mission is very important to me. We're a member of 1% for the Planet, so we give back to, you know, larger nonprofit organizations that are helping reduce food waste. So it's really this like two-part thing, and I have two sorts of customers and followers. I have the people who actually need help deciding which recipe to cook and how to, you know, take a head of broccoli and prepare it in the best way so that they can use it all up from end to stem. You buy broccoli by the pound, and if you're only cutting off the tops and throwing the rest away, you're not only wasting edible food and all of the resources that went into producing it, the water, the gas, the labor, the plastic, the rubber band that was on it, the, you know, stocking of it at the grocery store. You're wasting all of that every time you throw half of it away, but you're also wasting your money. So I'm trying to help people change how they see food that they buy and have an easier plan so that they can get dinner on the table. Like I said at the top of the show, you know, cooking for themselves at home. How can we make that easier, but in a way that's better for the planet? Going into this next decade, like, it's time to act. We have 10, maybe fewer years left to really start putting a dent on the way that we live our lives if we want our kids to be able to have, you know, any sort of familiar lives to ours. My kids in 2050 will be about my age. They'll be about 35, 36. I'm 38. 2050 is going to look a lot different if we don't start acting. So what I recognize is that a lot of people are probably, the hair stood up on their arms when I said that, and they're a little bit nervous thinking about it. But then when it comes
good.
to
It's good.
good, but they're going to be like, I know I should, but I'm so busy and tired and I don't love cooking. What can I do about it? And we have to solve people's busy, overwhelmed problem before we can get them to take action for social or environmental justice. So Ends and Stems is all about making your dinner time and grocery shopping easier in a way that lets you effortlessly participate in reducing your household food waste. So it's simple, even if my explanation sounds complicated. And basically the idea is I'm a private chef. I charge people thousands of dollars a week to literally cook for them. But with Ends and Stems for $2 a week, I can still plan your menus for you and give you all my best tips. So you still shop and cook, but I've done that mental labor for you to make it really easy for you to know exactly what to buy at the grocery store, decide exactly what you're cooking, and then give you really simple recipes that you can totally pull off to feed your family.
Yeah. And guys listening to the podcast right now, I can vouch for that simplicity. I have been using your service now for a couple of weeks, and I'm an advanced cook. Usually recipes are merely suggestions. All I need to do is look at a picture and a couple of ingredients and I'm off to the races. I don't really need every single step along the way. And a lot of the meal planning services that I've used tend to be a lot more complex than I think they need to be. I tend to simplify them.
Definitely.
Rather than making a separate dressing for 3 different meals, I will make one bottle of dressing that'll last me weeks in my refrigerator. So so I have to go through the process of editing out the dressing ingredients, but your recipes have been super simple, super quick.
Great.
Less than 30 minutes, guys. I loved your chickpea curry recipe this week. That was so good. I bought a couple of cans of chickpeas and coconut milk. I have all of the other ingredients. I have rice. I mean, everything's in my pantry. I always have onions. Done. And I was like, this is great. And I'm not even going to get around to cooking that meal this week because we're headed off to Tahoe. But because all I did was buy a couple cans and it's with stuff that I have in my pantry, it'll still be fresh next week. I can make it on Monday. There's nothing. And I love that I haven't wasted that. So I'm just loving your service so far.
Yay.
It really is fantastic, lightweight. This is different. This is different than other ones. I've tried a bunch of them. I've tried the boxes where you get a box of all this pre-prepared chopped up onion, in a little weird plastic tub. What is that?
No,
so much waste, so much excess. I never ended up using everything. Your service, I think, is a perfect fit for all of those challenges that the meal boxes or other planning services and their complexity. You're narrowing it down, and so I just giving you kudos for that. I think you are
That's
really
awesome.
hitting that fine spot for it because it's a challenging area for a lot of people.
I did a lot of research. I've cooked for so many people in the last 15 years that I did a lot of research. I interviewed almost 1,000 families to find out where their struggles were, what they were willing to pay for, what they felt was wasted, how much they cared, when they were willing to take action, and, just really where they struggled. And it's, for the most part, I recommend 3 recipes per week.
Yes.
You can do 1 or 2, you can add 3 or 4 others, but 3 seems to be that sweet spot where they can, even if you are an advanced cook, there are 3 simple recipes. And then if you want to go all homemade pasta or advanced level cooking, you still have to eat 4 other days that week. So nobody needs to be cooking overly difficult recipes every day of the week. And what I've found is that even my subscribers who like to cook, the idea of just having somebody who's really experienced in, recipe menu planning and that just tell you what to make, I mean, that's worth $2 a week just to say, oh, okay, this is what my chef told me to cook today. That's a good idea. So I do hope that it's allowing people to kind of get back to the basics and think about cooking in a new way. And, ultimately too, like if you're away this week and you don't cook it, it was just $2. So you're still kind of did these long studies to figure out if you'd still be saving money. And honestly, you can sign up for 6 months and not even cook for an entire month, and you're still going to save more money by not throwing away food than if you weren't subscribed. So the price point isn't like if you skipped one of those $75 meal boxes and you don't eat it, you're definitely not saving money anymore. So it's a subscription-based service. So people sign on monthly. You can pay for annual if you want. And all members can kind of choose throughout, whether they want to be more plant-based or if they eat meat, and make little substitutions as you go. So it's kind of new. I only launched this about 6 months ago officially. So before that, it was basically just an email-based meal planning program. But I really wanted to build better technology, and now you can swap out recipes. So to answer your other question, plans for 2020 are to scale up for, I want to get thousands more customers. So we're doing that. We're growing every week. Overall, we're seeing people stick around. We're getting great feedback on actually cooking the recipes and using the service. So definitely growth. I want to reach more people. Number one, to communicate the message of reducing your food waste and why that's a great place to start for a new sustainable, habit at home. And then also because obviously with more customers comes more revenue, comes more opportunity for the business. So a big goal of mine, I'm not, I don't want to be a solo entrepreneur. I used to have a much larger company. The thing I miss most is having teammates and somebody else who's going to sit down with me every day and be like, how can we make Ends and Stems bigger, better, and more impactful? So I have now a tech team, and I have a recipe editor, and I have somebody who's helping me with my social media, but they're all like part-time contractors, like on an as-needed basis. So I really want to get, probably starting part-time, but eventually full-time, another actual team member. So that's one of my goals for 2020 for sure. We can do more with more of us. So that's definitely top of my list. And then there are a couple tech improvements that I hope to be able to make this year. There are little things. There's like a button I need to add to one place where it needs to be. There's when you see the 3 recipes I recommend each week, you can add a 4th, but it doesn't bring the thumbnail of the recipe of the photo onto the list. It still goes onto your meal plan and your grocery list, but I want it to move the photo over too. So little things like that are I think a classic like version 2, right? So there are a couple of those throughout that hopefully we'll get a chance to add this year in 2020. So growing, improving, expanding the team, increasing revenue. I would say those are my top 4 goals.
Awesome. Well, Alison, this has been such an amazing conversation. We have covered a wide swath of topics, from podcasting to entrepreneurship to working parent habits. I love it. Where can we find you? And working parents, sign up for Ends and Stems. It's such a lifesaver. I highly recommend it for managing your dinner planning for the week. So tell us all about where we can find you and follow you, Alison.
It's at Ends and Stems everywhere. Instagram, I have a great Instagram feed, and that's great even for people who aren't subscribers for the recipes, because I still give lots of food waste tips and food for thought. So a lot of people who tell me they're already pretty good about food waste, or don't want the recipes, can still get a lot of benefit just from following on Instagram. But also on Facebook at Ends and Stems. I have a Facebook group at Ends and Stems. And the website is just, www.endsandstems.com. And the app is a web app. So even if you're on your phone, you don't need to download it in the store. It works on any phone or platform, just from, a website, endsandstems.com.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here today. This was great and fantastic. So guys, make sure you follow Alison, and great interview today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, don't forget to join the Action Taker community. It's an awesome group of individuals, entrepreneurs, and high performers just like you that are striving for excellence and for success and to take their business from side hustle to careers. Head over to facebook.com/groups/Action Taker community. You can also just search the Action Taker community on Facebook. Would love to have you there. There's a special invitation to be able to also come join in on an Action Taker Elite coaching session for free. So I've got as much stuff as I can give you right now. You can go get the free guide at laurencosgrave.com/free guide and go join the Facebook group, the Action Taker community, so that you can join those of us that are working alongside you. And if you're up for it, come join us. Come check out the Action Taker Elite coaching program. See if it's a right fit for you. Remember, Action Taker, until next time, remember that normal is boring, success is inevitable, and action taking is always the next right step.